When I think about the ideas that affected me personally, it always comes back to creativity. When I was young, I spent a lot of time playing music and learning the blues. In my later life, photography has come to be the same kind of experience.
It's just about being free and fearless and open enough with yourself that you can just let anything happen.
Ideas that matter is such an interesting concept because there are so many ideas floating around out there, and a lot of times they really don't matter until somebody really takes hold of them and makes them their own.
Ideas that matter, I think those are really what keep us going every day and get us out of bed. If we don't have new and fresh ideas and innovation, what's the point?
I love ideas. And in fact, what I do is I get infected by other people's passion, I suppose, is what it is. And I particularly like passion when it escapes from people's egos. I find that it's egos that prevent passion flying.
You know, to me, the ideas that matter have to do with what makes us particularly human. They're the ideas that relate to how we tell stories, for instance. They're the ideas that relate to how we look at the world and we say, I've never seen that before. How do I make sense of that? They're the ideas that relate to, I want to be creative, not just when I'm in one place at one time, but when I'm anywhere.
Ideas that matter is something that is really about leveraging the technology, not just to be able to do a particular thing better, to do a task or process more effectively or efficiently, but rather to do things to enable a person to make contributions, to enable a collection of people to do more than they could individually, and to do it for things that are important, not just to a given person, but to another individual, a collection, or a community.
Personal computers have been in homes since the early 80s. We still, you know, here it's almost 30 years later, and we still have this huge digital divide. So I think one of the main ideas that matter is somehow getting that divide to be less or gone, non-existent anymore. And by doing that, we can reach out into social communities, we can reach out into our inner cities and actually make them a part of this digital world that is here to stay. When my son was younger and he wasn't really moving beyond socially, he couldn't really deal with crowds or any of this stuff, I brought him into a technology-based program called First Lego League. And through that program, he found that he could add value to things that were going on. And when he was 13 years old, I received my very first hug from him. And it was all because of bringing him into this technology boundary that I never even expected him to excel at. So he taught me how much technology could mean to his life. And then in return, that gave back to my life.
So an idea that changed my life actually came from a college instructor I had, and his name was Ray Ressler. What Ray taught me was the whole idea of going out and exploring and seeing new things. And why that mattered for me personally is then I started to apply it in other areas of my life. And it made me change the direction I was going in my major and to focus on somewhere that I could make a difference, which was becoming a teacher. So I went from the idea of thinking about making money to the idea of that money wasn't an important thing, it's what can I do to help change lives, and that changed my career path in a really significant way.
Having a sense of what is impactful, what makes a difference is really important, and particularly important now when we are just, I mean, you look at it, we get, you get this constant tsunami of the crisis rhetoric, saying, oh, things are going to hell in a handbasket. Then you get this other stuff which is all about opportunities. This thing will, is better than sliced bread. And so there's a lot of stuff that we are confronted with. How do you harness this wonderful abundance of technology and content and community in order to address that enduring problem?
I think we're still working out the power of the network. Networks, their value is defined by the number of connections that they can make And increasingly, living in a world informed by the internet, it's hard to imagine the networks that we were educated in with 1 or 2 or 4 connections. So teachers and students have so many more opportunities to connect with just a variety of voices on the broader web that completely shape the way that we're educating today.
And we need ideas. We need big ideas. We need bad ideas. We need half-baked ideas so that we can explore them and act on them to create a sustainable higher education system that our students are interested in and that prepares them to be global citizens and world leaders.
So one of the many lessons that my grandmother taught me about baking was the need to be able to ad lib. You know, if the dough doesn't feel just right, you got to know whether you're going to be adding flour or water. And that's a lesson I took from her that I use every day. So you're just never quite sure whether or not you're going to need to add a little bit of water today or a little bit of flour.
And we were in a car and we were sweating. As kids, we were complaining that it was too hot. And I remember my mother saying, you know, it's all in your mind. Think that you are in a cold environment, that you're in a cold weather, that it's snowing outside, and you'll see how that heat dissipates and you'll feel cooler. So really, when we think about challenges that we have and issues that we confront, is how to change them and think about in a different way, in a positive way. Things will transform in your mind, and through that you can transform whatever you want to do.
Ideas that matter come from within us when we pull out our creative side, and in order to do that we become more childlike.
For me, an idea that matters is freeing your mind through music.
We lived next to a woods, and when I was 6 or 7, I was told, disappear. It really opened up a level of curiosity about going out and finding things that no one had seen before.
When I was 5 years old, I remember walking out onto the bunny slope at Red River, New Mexico. And on the ski hill, probably the first thing that I had to realize was the true value of balance. And it seems like balance is, in an ongoing way, a struggle, a challenge, and a joy in my professional and personal life.
For many years, I studied the Japanese martial art of Aikido. And in a martial context, your first instinct is to pull back. But my experience in working the art and with the art over a number of years taught me that that's the wrong thing. When you're in a new environment, when you're in a situation that might be threatening, a little bit unsettling, that the last thing you want to do is pull back and flinch, but really step forward with some confidence into the situation, because that's the best way to deal with it. So that has been something that has been very meaningful to me, and I've tried to appropriate that concept in many challenges, in many instances, many contexts, in my professional life and in my personal life, and that is stepping forward with energy rather than retreating.
This is where inspiration is gained. It's these ideas that matter that allow me to move forward, to have the energy to kind of reach to things that maybe I wouldn't ordinarily go after. You've got to hear these things from other people. You have to be able to talk to each other, and then these ideas have a way of growing.
What my father talked to me about was, what's the opposite of certainty? And the opposite of certainty is faith, he said. Not uncertainty, but faith that you will come up with a solution. So as we travel the path of trying to do innovative things, if we are dealing with certainty, I think we've got something wrong, because it's too controlled and too narrow. But if we go forward with a sense of faith that we're going to come up with solutions, and also I think transferring that to faith in the young people that we might work with, then I think we'll come to a better place.